Hello, everybody. So we've got a question here about Newton's law of cooling, essentially, about temperature change. And so the question states that you've got an oven, and the oven is hot. So the oven is at 180 degrees Celsius. And then you're going to put a chemical, and the chemical is at 0 degrees Celsius. And the rate of change is proportional to the difference between the temperatures. So the way we can say that over time is that the rate of change of the temperature is proportional to the difference between the temperatures. So the oven stays at 180. So I'm going to go T minus 180. Capital T stands for the temperature at any given time. So I didn't just do 0 minus 180 because that would be just the initial difference. That's not the same as the difference at every point in time. And we also know that after 5 minutes, so T of 5, the temperature of the chemical is 120. So that thing is heating up really fast. Okay, cool. So we've got a differential equation right there, and now we're going to solve it. So I'm going to separate my variables by dividing both sides by t minus 180 and multiplying both sides by dt. I'll integrate both sides to eliminate the differential. So now I have the natural log of the absolute value of t minus 180 equals kt plus c. I'm going to raise both sides to the e. So I have absolute value of t minus 180 equals ce to the kt. In another video, I mentioned that you could also do this trick because e to the k is also just a constant. So c times k raised to the t, if you want to do that. And I want you to think about something. What do we know about the absolute value? We have a temperature minus 180, and the object that we put in the oven is colder. So we actually know that the absolute value is negative. It turns out not to matter too much because the c value is still as yet undetermined. So we can just drop it on both sides, say t minus 180 is c times k to the t. This should work out. So we know that the chemical was initially 0 degrees Celsius. So that translates to the t of 0 equals 0. Let's plug that in. So that means that I'll bring it over here just to have some space. If I plug in 0, I get negative 180 equals c times k to the 0. So that means that negative 180 is c. Remember a minute ago I just asked you to think about the positive or negative value of the absolute value and how it was negative. The c value absorbs that right into it. It's a negative c. I knew it had to be a negative c value because the object is heating up. Then t of 5 equals 120 means I go 120 minus 180. Now I know my c value is negative 180. I don't know my k value, so I have k to the 5th. This is negative 60. Divide by 180, and I get positive 1/3 is k to the 5th. So then I guess the 5th root of 1/3 is k. And what all that's saying is that the original distance was 180, and then after 5 minutes, it is a third of the way. It is now a third of the distance away from 180, so it's 2/3 closer because now it's only 60 degrees away from 180. So it was 180, a third of that is 60, and it took 5 minutes. That's why you have the 1/5 power in there. So really, if you kind of know how these Newton's law of cooling problems work, you're able to logic out what the C and what the K values have to be. Okay, so anyway, now we have our full differential equation. Maybe I'll go up here to the right, try to squeeze things in. I'm going to solve for T by adding 180. So we have 180 minus 180, and K is the 5th root of 1/3. So I have 1/3 raised to the T over 5. So what I did there is a little trick is I took the 5th root and I incorporated it as the denominator up in the exponent. And then after 5 further minutes into the oven would mean I'm going to plug in 10. So I have 180 minus 180 to times 1/3 to the 10/5, which is 2. So I have 180 minus 180 times 1/3 squared, which is 1/9. So these numbers work out super nice. So 1/9 of 180 is 20. So we get 160. And again, you could have logicked that out because it gets 1/3 closer to 180, or 2/3 closer. It gets 1/3 of the distance to 180 every 5 minutes. So um, you knew that it was initially 180 away, then it was 60 away, then it was 20 away. After another 5 minutes, you'd go 1/3 of 20 is 6 2/3. And so you'd take that away from 180, and that would tell you the temperature. Okay, so it has an asymptote up there at the temperature of the oven. All right, please ask questions or comment if anything was confusing.